Friend, this topic actually gets asked all the time in my DMs. And it's, how did you work with pop-up locations? How did you do it? Why did you do it? Was it lucrative? How do you negotiate? All the questions. So today on the show, we have Kayla, who is the owner of Weir Whitening Co. here in Ontario, Canada, and a fellow dental professional. Kayla's going to walk us through what it's been like starting a teeth whitening business, why she put the restraint on for a couple years, and how she's navigating going back to a full-time position that she loves, but is still getting those heart tugs to also continue strong with her teeth whitening business. Kayla has also ventured out and started doing pop-up locations with medi-spas around her area and a little bit of a travel as well. This is such a great conversation because it shows you that you don't have to work from your home and you don't have to rent a space. You can do a hybrid model of the pop-up model. The pop-up model, as you know, if you've followed my personal journey, is something I'm very familiar with. We ran over 10 locations of this pop-up model, and then we also did private sector dental offices as well as medi-spas. So I'm very familiar with the pop-up model, lots of pros to it. Of course, like anything, there are going to be cons, but as long as you're prepared, usually you can filter out those cons. So let's dive into this episode, get Kayla's insight and wisdom on all things being a teeth whitening business owner, not only from an at-home location, but also on the road. Let's dive in. If you are a teeth whitening or tooth gem specialist, this is the podcast for you. My name's Rach, and I am the industry leader of all things teeth entrepreneurship. Together, let's learn from real-life experiences to must-have brands on how to take your business to the next level and leave that 9-to-5. Friend, welcome to Whitening Wednesday, and I'm so glad you are here. Let's build a safe industry together. Friend, did you know that the Ultra 2 accelerator is actually a great mobile option? If you plan on doing pop-up events, this could be in-home pop-up events, maybe this is whitening parties, or pop-up to a business, the Ultra unit is actually really small and compact, that it's the easiest unit on the market to take to and from. Plus, don't forget you have 2 LED attachment lights that have 2 meters on each cord. That means that you can comfortably see 2 clients at once, which are usually the most ideal for bang for your buck when it comes to your pop-up locations. To shop the Ultra 2 Accelerator, check out Fern Whitening Supplies online and watch for the promos. Happy Whitening Wednesday. Today on the show, we have a fellow dental professional who is here in Ontario with me. And Kayla, you're going to chat so many helpful, insightful tips for the audience because you are in their shoes. You are a full-time employee, you're a mom, and you have a teeth whitening business. So you are doing all the things. So first things first, thanks so much for coming on. I can't wait to chat with you. And tell us how, or even why did you even start Weir Whitening Co? Was it just you fell in love with whitening from in-office experiences, or were you just seeing other professionals do it and you're like, hey, like I have the skills? Tell us, why did you even start?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. This seems like surreal, honestly, to be on here. Your podcast, everything, all of your posts, everything has been so helpful. So first of all, thank you for having me. This is super exciting. I started Weir Whitening. Basically, it was just really something that my heart wanted to do, to be honest. I had thought about it for a really long time. So even Probably 2 years ago, I started thinking about it and kind of brainstorming how I could make this into a business, how I could make something out of this little idea that I had. Realistically, I didn't have the space in our house to make an office. And I was worried about the expenses. So, because I'm a mom, I'm working full time. Yeah, I just had a lot of questions about how it would even be, how it would operate. And so then I kind of would think about it and I would do all the research and I would look into all the different whitening brands and all of the different materials. And then my idea would settle for a while and I wouldn't talk about it and I wouldn't really think about it. And then 3 months later, 4 months later, I would start brainstorming again. It kept getting brought back up. And then finally, when I went on my second maternity leave with my little one, I was talking about it again and again and again and again and doing so much research. And my husband was like, stop talking about this. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. We're going to find the space. We're going to make it work. Your heart is really into it. And I know you want to do it. So he kind of pulled the trigger on turning our spare bedroom into more of like a functional room with a Murphy bed. So we put a Murphy bed in there and purchased all of the equipment that I needed to get started and went from there. And it's really been something that I've had so much fun with and I've just really loved doing it.
That is so interesting to hear because I feel like it's really, really common, especially those of us coming from the dental industry because we're involved intraorally all day. Of course, we hear patients talk about it, or maybe we have other connections in our local industry that are maybe already doing it, or, it's just in our minds. So it's interesting that it took you about 2-ish years to finally do it because I feel like that happens with a lot of us. Imposter syndrome kicks in. We think like, oh, like I can't make that investment or where would I do it? And I feel like you probably also felt this way because I know I did even back when I started or like when I hear other techs talk about it. And it's when you go to do the research portion, it's overwhelming because not only do we not have, the best background on whitening coming out of any dental background, if it's assisting, hygiene, or even like a DDS, like being a dentist, we're not taught much. So then when we start looking into different products or packages, I don't know if you found this, but did you find kind of each different company that would come up and you would chat with? You kind of got different answers from everybody. Is that something that also started to overwhelm you where you were like, wait a second, like person A said this, but then company B said this, and this one's this much more than this one? Like, did you just find it was like just hectic? Like, if that was another portion, was you're just like, someone give me an answer?
Yeah. So truthfully, I think I spent a year messaging other dental hygienists and reaching out to fellow coworkers, just, a lot of people in the dental world and trying to learn more about teeth whitening. And I truly felt like I was getting different answers from everybody. And it seemed to me that, it's really not a black and white thing. It's everybody was kind of playing with their products and going from there and seeing what worked for them. And I'm very much of a direct person. Like I just want the direct instructions. So I was getting frustrated because I'm like, well, how do you just know? Like, yes, I'm a dental hygienist, but how do you just know? Like I work in public health. I didn't do a ton of whitening previous in office. Like I was in private practice for a few years before, but I've been in public health since I was like 23. So I didn't have a ton of background knowledge. And then I would get really discouraged because I just felt like the support wasn't really there and I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. So that was definitely something that would set me back a little bit, just not really having the confidence from the get-go.
And that's very, very common to hear. And, I hope as the industry continues to grow, like, more and more answers become readily available and also different companies just take some different approaches because I mean, this industry is definitely here to stay and it's only going to grow. So hopefully it's just going to become easier to get safe and
Mhm.
effective products and information. But that's really interesting to see that you had that experience too, because I do find that that's quite common. So talk to us about, I know you're an avid listener to the show, which is so fun. I love it. So you've heard me talk about this before and curious, how do you feel about your in-home space? Do you feel confident in it? Are there some times that you feel like maybe you know that you're not advertising as much because maybe you do feel a little weird that it's in your home? Like, how are you feeling with your in-home space?
Yeah, that's a really good question because it's definitely something that holds me back a little bit. I do feel a little bit nervous sometimes, especially when it's clients that I don't know on a personal level. It even holds me back when I'm booking the appointment because I get nervous thinking like, oh, I'm sure it's fine. But then I don't know. It's like my husband has to be home and all of these things. The other issue is that I really would like to invest in a better chair because the thing with having a home office right now is that I do really need that room to be a functional room. I have family that live out of town that do come and stay with us, and we do need to make that as a spare bedroom sometimes. So I can't have this great big dental chair in there, which is what's got me kind of into the med spas and having the option of being able to book clients at the med spa as opposed to my house. I'm more than happy to still see clients in the home office. And it is fun because the girls are downstairs. So I can run downstairs and, help with the baby for a minute and then run back upstairs and reapply the whitening. But I do feel a little bit self conscious sometimes because I wanted everything to be at a certain professional level and I really wanted it to be done properly if I was going to open up this whitening business. And the chair, I really wish I had a better chair, but it might come down the road or I might really just focus on the med spas because I do love it. My heart is really, I love working at the med spas. It's so fun.
Yes, and I can't wait to talk to you about med spas.
Yeah.
So we've both had experiences popping
Yeah.
up at medical spas, which is so fun. So how has your experience been? Have you found that, was it scary reaching out to the locations or did you like just have a passion to be like, hey, I could have a great service that would be so complementary to the services you already have. Did you reach out to a lot of locations and got any pushback, or did you just reach out to a couple and you just got yeses right away? What was your experience like reaching out to businesses?
Yeah, so I've reached out to three, and two of the three, I already had a little bit of a connection, like whether I was a client there, whether I knew a few people that worked there. Like I had a little bit of a relationship with them prior, and they knew I was a dental hygienist. So it was kind of just a casual conversation that, slip them my business card and say maybe one day I could offer whitening at your med spa. The third location was a spa downtown here close to where I live, where I don't have any connection to. I've really only been in there once, and it was me stepping outside my comfort zone to reach out to them. And it didn't end ultimately that well. I think if I would have tried a little bit, I guess, harder or really pushed it more, I probably could have got in, but I knew that I had my full-time job approaching soon and I was a little bit hesitant. And I think maybe they could feel the hesitation just because I felt a bit overwhelmed taking on three med spas plus going back to work full time plus the two kids. It just seemed like I was maybe taking off a bit more than I can handle.
And that's really important to point out is that I feel like, especially with social media, and we get used to this hustle culture, right? We think that we have to be doing like all these things or that we're not succeeding if we're not doing like, a gazillion things all at once. So that's so important and helpful to know that you knew your own limits. You felt that like it was going to be way too much for you because really at the end of the day, you're not going to have a business if you're burnt out, right? So
Yeah.
It's really making that decision that, hey, I know that this is going to be too much for me, but that's still such a great and bold move that you made those connections, right? Who knows? Maybe it will come to fruition in the future, or maybe that location just wasn't for you, right? So,
Mhm.
still so inspiring that you went out of your comfort zone and you did a cold one. And that's probably almost like great experience, almost like when you've had a panel interview, which I'm sure you've had for public health, where it's just
Mhm.
getting your toes wet, getting used to just trying out things and going from there. So even though that third location didn't work, still so exciting that you branched
Mhm.
out and you tried it. Like, does it feel a lot like more comfortable? Like, do you feel happy? I shouldn't say happy. Like, it just feels like that was the right decision, was to not take on that extra spot right now.
I think it definitely was the right decision for me because I can really focus on my other two med spas now and put like a ton of time and effort into those two locations versus adding in all of these extra locations and then not really giving them, the best service and the best like representation of myself because they might sense that I'm a little bit overwhelmed, that my heart's not really into it. So I think for me personally, just to have two really close spas that I truly love both locations. And, it's going to be fun for me. If I love the atmosphere, if I love the clients, if I love the staff, then I'm going to enjoy doing it too, because I'm like, realistically, I am taking a Saturday away from my family and it is hard for me to leave them. So wherever I'm going to put the hours into, I want to make sure that I'm happy there too.
Yeah. So massive to remember that at the end of the day, like, it's not even just about money, it's also about your energy and your mental clarity too, right? So
Yeah.
you really do have to make those decisions sometimes. Now, I'm really, really excited to chat about this because honestly, the amount of DMs that I usually get about, like, hey, how do I work with a local business? I literally probably get these a few times a day. So let's chat about our different experiences. I know when we were doing pop ups at different locations, we had 6 to 10 different locations throughout Ontario. We really still had to do a lot of our own advertising, which I feel like is very common. And that unfortunately, some providers might think, like, I want to do a pop up or work with another business because then they'll fill my client list for me. And at least from my experience, I've actually found that that isn't very common. Like, you still have to do a lot of the marketing and advertising. Like, absolutely, you should still be getting some of their clients, right? Because I'm assuming they are doing in house marketing. But we did always find that we still had to bring in a large majority of the clients. Do you find that too? That even though you are doing a pop up, it's your business, you still have to market for your chair?
I 100% agree with that. I didn't expect that when I was going into it. I did truly think that, it's like working in private practice. I'm going to walk in and have some clients booked and it's going to be perfect. That has not been my experience so far. I do think that it takes time to build the clientele. And I do think that down the road, it will get busier, especially now I'm offering Saturdays versus weekday appointments. So the Saturdays already have seemed to be a little bit fuller in my schedules. But yeah, I didn't expect it to have to be fully on me for the marketing and scheduling, but that's okay. It's just going to take time. And, they're both locations, both pop ups are doing different methods of advertising. One is very focused on social media, one is very focused on kind of old school, putting flyers around their waiting room and putting flyers in the operatories and things like that. So they just naturally have clients that come in and they see my picture and they see the little pamphlet that I have out and they ask questions and then they book. So it's funny. It's two very different ways of marketing. And so far they've been working about the same. I usually have a couple clients booked each time I go in, but if I want to be busier, then yes, I do definitely need to be marketing myself and filling my own schedule.
Yes. And great thing to highlight on, because that's one thing is we always like to highlight, the behind the scenes. And that's definitely something to consider for any text listening, that you still have to be prepared that it is your business. So you still have to put in the work to fill it. Now, that being said, I mean, who knows, maybe if you're at like a crazy, crazy busy Medi Spa that has so many clients that they could just fill it. I mean, it really does depend on how long the business has been in business, all the different factors. But as you mentioned, I also think as teeth whitening becomes more and more of a norm, since we're still early in the stages of it being outside of the dental office, I think it's going to get filled a lot quicker too, because it's going to just be more common. So it's going to be really exciting. So glad that you've made the connections, found spots that you love. And I bet they're just going to continue to grow, especially as we're about to roll into prom, weddings, all that fun stuff. It's going to be such a fun summer for you, I bet, which I can't wait to watch. So now that you've been in the biz, you're making different moves, you've tried different things, what is something that you would love to share with fellow techs, future techs? What's a little nugget tip that you're like, I wish I knew this before I started a business?
So honestly, any advice to future teeth whitening techs, don't focus so much on all those little things, because you can waste so much money and it's just never ending. Like you try to create a website and then it's like, oh no, you need to have an email address, and oh no, you need to have the subscription, and oh no. So it got very overwhelming for me. And I think I went like knee deep in a lot of that stuff when really it wasn't fully necessary. And I would be doing probably the same amount profit wise with or without that stuff. The website's nice and the email address is nice because it's professional, but it's not 100% necessary.
Like starting out, you can definitely say, create an email that might be at Gmail or at Hotmail and still put your business name in it. And it's just cutting down those costs that add up very, very quickly, as you know.
Yeah. So even doing things a little bit different, like you can still have the professional email, you can still have some of those things, but just doing it a little bit different. I wanted mine to be at weirwhitening.ca and I wanted it to be a certain way. So, and you don't realize beforehand how much all of those things cost. Also, the scheduling system through a website that you want to get set up so it looks more professional, that clients can go in and book their own appointments. Again, they still like to reach out to you personally and make that appointment through you. I've had clients go on and book through my website, but they still ask a lot of questions and message me, and they still might want to change the timing a little bit. There's always adjustments. So I have struggled a little bit with that, where I've thought in hindsight, I wish I didn't have all of those extras, because you can market just as much on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those other platforms, and do just as well.
Which is something really great to touch on, because I feel like we do get overwhelmed. And of course, when starting a business, we want to try to keep our costs down as low as possible. So that's definitely when I always recommend, in hindsight's 2020. Did I do this when I first started? No. But now I recommend it, is like really building out a budget, figuring out exactly what every little piece will actually cost. Like you said, like, oh, I didn't know that like my subscription was probably $30 a month, or like it adds up. Really building out that in stone budget. So then you can actually look at it and be like, okay, no, that's not needed. That's not needed. That's such a great tip. I love that. So, Kayla, what else do you think? Like, do you think you feel like you're going to continue to grow? I mean, I know you're back to work. Like, where do you find the time, honestly, with two little ones plus work? Do you think you'll stay more just pop-ups, or do you think you have expansion ideas in the future? Where are your next ideas coming from?
Yeah, I'm so back and forth because I love the whitening business. It's so fun. I really love doing it. Like you can even just see when I'm bringing clients back, I just love it. It's really fun for me. But yeah, then I'm torn because I do work full time Monday to Friday, and that's a job that I worked very hard to get. It's not something that I'm interested in giving up. It's also not something that I'm able to do part time. So if the option for part time was there, then, I would definitely be looking at expanding my whitening business and doing that 2 days a week. Right now, I am not able to do that. So I will be keeping the whitening business to the med spas, whether that means, increasing the Saturdays probably over summer because it is going to be busy with brides and people going on trips and all the fun stuff that happens in the summer. So I can see myself doing a few more days over the summer when it's busier. And then as far as my home business, I'm very open to still keeping that. A couple clients a week is totally manageable for me. I think I can do that as long as my husband agrees to helping with the kids. But yeah, right now what I've been doing is about one or two clients during the week out of my house. And then I have my med spas booked. So
That sounds like so many things could happen. You never know what's going to happen. And there could be either route's going to be great, but it's going to be so fun for you to take this journey. So there's one thing that just came to my mind and I think we should touch on because it's again another question that I get all the time. With you going to pop up locations, of course, you're probably on a tighter schedule because you're only there for so long. You need to see X amount of clients. So you probably don't have as much leeway as you would in your home environment, right? You're probably not back to back booked at home as when you're on a pop up, you're most likely probably like on the dot. This is when the next patient's going to be there.
Mhm.
So do you do pre Zoom consults or do you just hope for the best and hope that the client doesn't have a lot of things you have to talk about to stay in the time frame? Like I always find lots of texts are like, I'm ending up at 90 plus minutes because I get the patient in the chair, I'll do a pre-look, or maybe they have a ton of questions, or maybe they're not even that much of a viable candidate for whitening. Like I find I'm really struggling with cutting down my time because I find the patient is just requiring a lot of talking time. So how
Mhm.
have you kind of navigated that at a pop-up location?
Yeah, so that's a tricky one. Right now, what I'm doing that has been working for the most part is both pop up locations have my consent form, which has more than just the consent. It has a lot of, about the process and everything that we're going to be doing step by step. Kind of like a frequently asked questions section. So both of those pop up locations have that consent form. When a client books, they have to do that form
Mm.
online when they're booking. So they're reviewing that beforehand. And then when I go out in the waiting room to bring them in, I also have a hard copy of it and I'll go through it just briefly, touching those points and, asking if they have any other questions to go along with it. And I mean, knock on wood, but so far it's been really good and people seem to know the process and they don't have any more questions. They're not overly concerned about anything because they've read it beforehand. So that's been really helpful. I actually find that I fall behind schedule more when I'm working at my house,
Really?
which is funny. Yeah, it's like the opposite. When I'm in my pop-up locations, it's typically clients that I don't know. And, we just get straight to business. I bring them in and I go through everything right away. They've already signed the consent form. They've maybe had whitening in the past. They're just ready to get started and it's perfect and I'm right on time. When I have clients in my house, it's typically somebody that I know or, we're mutual friends and they've never had whitening done before. And that's where all the questions come. And I'm finding for sure we're hitting like that hour and a half mark, which is fine for the most part. When I have had clients booked back to back at my house, I was stressed about that because I felt that I was always going over my time. And then, you're texting them saying, I'm so sorry, I'm just running 10 minutes behind, which I don't like to do. So yeah, it's been harder for me at the house in that aspect.
That's really great that you have that set up with the Medi Spa, and such a good idea because that
Mhm.
is kind of flagging, right? It's getting that conversation started, etc. So that's good to know, and it makes sense. I mean, we are usually chattier with a client or a patient
Mhm.
who you have some connection to, right? So you're definitely not the first one to say like, "Hey, when I know the person, we're going to chat for a while." So that's a
Mhm.
tip to text is maybe block in the extra time if it is somebody that you know
Yes.
is going to be chatty. I do know that we had this one patient who would come in all the time for quarterly boosts, and a boost would take us 30 minutes, but we would book him in for 90 minutes just because we knew like we would have the other rooms running on top of that. So it definitely offset the time lost on that chair. But on the flip side, we just knew that patient we were not going to get out in time just because they're chatty.
And you want to make it fun for them. So I'm not going to cut them off and say, I got to keep on schedule here. I want them to have fun and enjoy their experience. So I'm just enjoying the conversation and catching up with them. But my internal clock is like freaking out because in private practice, that's like that would give me an anxiety attack, to be honest.
It is stressful when you run behind, and especially like in a home setting, it's not like they have a reception area to go into, or they're like,
Mhm.
I see why you're like texting on the side, but then also you're probably texting on the side and still trying to pay attention to the client who's still in the chair. So,
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
oh, the perks of being a business owner, right?
Yes. Yeah. So many perks that I didn't know about,
So,
but it's
Kayla,
been fun.
this has been so good. I'm so glad you're able to come on and chat and share your story. Again, I know our audience is going to love it. So, where can they follow along with your journey?
Yeah, so you can find me at Weir Whitening Co on Instagram. I also have a website, weirwhiteningco.com, where you can reach me there and feel free to reach out, ask any questions. I'm very active. Well, I try to be very active on my Instagram page and definitely respond very promptly. So if anybody has any questions, that's where you can find me.
Amazing. So good. Well, thanks again, Kayla. And those of you who are listening, thanks for listening to another episode of Whitening Wednesday.